Totally. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming.
It's nice to see you.
So this is the second other house I have. You have to come visit me in New York one day.
Yes, sure. All right, right on. We'll do that too.
Tell me about the Atlas Underground.
Sure.
When did it start?
Sure. This is a problem that I've been... the problem. In some ways, it was a problem. I've been working on this record in secret for years now, maybe like 4 years. It was prior to Prophets of Rage, even sort of the end of the Bruce Springsteen stint. I was working on this record. And I had an idea to create a sonic conspiracy. That was the notion. To bring together artists of diverse genres, ethnicities, ages, and genders to make like this cohesive statement in 2018. And the lofty ambition was to create a new genre of rock and roll, something that combines my Marshall Stack rocking, riffing, soloing power with huge EDM drops and some of the electronic wizardry of now. So the journey began with when I got turned on to a band called Knife Party, and I was never a fan of EDM music. It always sounded like Italian taxi cab music. It was pretty awful. Until a metal friend turned me on to Knife Party, and they had the same power and aggression and tension and release of some of my favorite rock and roll music. I thought, and the light bulb went off. I said, okay, what if... I was looking for a way to challenge myself as a guitarist and artist. So what if we take kind of what they do, but we replace their synthesizers with my electric guitar?
Right.
And we made a song, and it's the first song on the record called Battle Sirens. I'm like, well, this is like a new thing. So I just kept going down that path. And from collaborators as diverse as Wu-Tang Clan and Marcus Mumford, Rise Against, Steve Aoki, Bass Nectar,
K-Flay, Vic Mensa,
K-Flay, Big Boy, Killer Mike, and made a record that was with some of my favorite new artists, some of my favorite people, artists, to make something brand new for 2018.
Well, nobody gets to even say that you're doing anything other than you've already done, because a younger generation may not quite remember the conversations around Rage when it first happened.
Sure.
And people thought you guys were playing samples and all this stuff, but it was you on the guitar doing that stuff anyway.
Absolutely. That's the whole idea. It's like my analog guitar playing has imitated DJs and some EDM textures in the past, and now the idea was to make like this complete new alloy where the two are seamless.
So if it's 4 years ago, it starts to happen in your head.
Yeah.
I mean, and because you're so relevant in terms of the things that you care about and making a statement.
Yeah.
I mean, the world in 4 years is only different publicly.
Right.
Because this stuff was all happening behind the scenes anyway.
Yep.
Did any of it change as we got to this political reality?
Well, the twin pillars of this record were, one, to make this kind of hybrid new music, and the other was to tell social justice ghost stories.
Yeah.
And the idea being that the heroes and martyrs of the past would find voice in these songs to shed light on the struggles of the present, and then hopefully light a fire under an audience to help change the future and make it a more humane and just one.
You're an optimistic fella, right?
I'm an optimistic. I'm like, my optimism is in the fact that I recognize I'm a student of history and realize that there is an ebb and flow to it. But the only thing that makes things change is when we change it, and that if I can imbue one message to my audience through my decades-long career, is that you, them, me, her, that guy, we are agents of history,
right?
And that's the way things change is when people stand up and change them. You don't have to have any special amount of power, courage, intellect, or creativity in order to do it. When people stand up in their time to change things, that's when you've got a chance of things getting better.
I did a documentary series years ago for CBC called Love, Hate, and Propaganda, and it was all about the use of propaganda by all the sides. And the question that was posed was, how did the world get to this? World War II, the madness. And the answer was simple. People.
Yeah.
Those who did it, those who let it happen, those who didn't know they could have stopped it, and those who were just innocent victims.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But it's always just people.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the lesson in that is that you have an opportunity in your time to seize the wheel of history, or you can abdicate that responsibility, stand on the sidelines, and let other sons of bitches drive the planet into a ditch.
Now, are you surprised that this is where we're at?
I don't say that I'm surprised. I mean, there's sort of these... Two things are constants, long before Rage Against the Machine and long after we're gone, is there will be injustice. There will also be resistance to injustice. And you just have to decide which side you're on and apply your convictions to whatever vocation you choose. For me, it was as a guitar player. I didn't really choose to be a guitarist. That kind of chose me, and I'm stuck being a guitar player, so I have to find a way to wield my axe for the forces of good.
You don't have guitar player brain, right? So that's the thing about you. Like a lot of cats I interview who play, even listen to this record and the stuff you're making, this is what they do. They play guitar.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
You have other things.
I have other things, yeah.
And you have the Ivy League brain, right? You have, I can do this stuff as well.
Yeah.
So obviously the guitar has given you so much.
That's right. Yeah. But I have always looked at it as like it's like, the 8 hours a day that I was practicing to amass a certain amount of technique, and the inspiration that I found, and sort of self-identifying as the DJ in Rage Against the Machine. Like all of that is one arrow in the quiver of stuff. I consider myself like an artist and a creative person first, and the guitar is a big part of that. And no one loves to shred like crazy more than me. And, and to have that be sort of an important cornerstone. But I like to, when you say there are a lot of guitar players that is their singular focus, that's never been mine.
For Atlas Underground, when you go into was it recorded in a studio in parts?
Different. I mean, over the course of that time, in a lot of it in my home studio, Veritas Studios. I did most of my stuff there.
Yeah.
Gary Clark Jr. came in there. The Wu-Tang guys came in there. K-Flay came in there. Vic Mensa came in there. But other times it was like I would send, like the Knife Party Jam and the Steve Aoki Jam, I would send them like a riff tape. I would say, like, here's 10 hot riffs and here's some crazy noises, and just say, use this as the fodder to do what you do. Right. And then other times, like for the Gary Clark Jr. Jam, we jammed for 3.5 hours, and I boiled that jam down to 3.5 minutes.
So then how do you challenge yourself? Like, how do you plug your guitar into the sound card? You're in the studio. Let's say you're by yourself and you're starting to figure it out. You have the Bruce stuff. Of course, the Rage stuff, the Audio Slave stuff, the Prophets of Rage stuff. Where are you going to say, now, how do I make this me but not me?
Right. Well, how I do that is it's the idea of the overall Atlas Underground project. Yeah. The me in this record is straight up me. You know what I mean? It's my riffs, it's my sounds, it's my ideas, but how it's recontextualized. I put it like this. So if my guitar playing were the crystal clear black and white Ansel Adams photograph, this record is the smashed Picasso version of it. So it's recognizable, but you hear it in an entirely different way.
So when you hear it all back now, what do you think of it?
I think that, I made the record I wanted. Yeah, and I took the time to make it right. And it's especially on songs from, like the Bass Nectar Jam and the Knife Party song, the song with Gary Clark Jr., that it really, in a way that it's challenging. Like a lot of times, like rock and roll fans, and I'm one of metal fans especially, are conservative in their taste. Yeah. When a band like Rage Against the Machine came out and there was a guy rapping and it was political, they're like, I'm not sure this is the metal that I'm okay with. And then when we formed Audio Slave, and it was like, oh, but now this is different from Rage Against the Machine. There's this kind of tentative nature to new stuff, and whenever I feel that when I'm outside of a safety zone of my own playing, I feel like I know that I'm absolutely doing the right thing.
And do you have to push yourself to get there?
No, I'm pretty bold in that stuff to me. This is my 17th studio album.
That's crazy,
right? 17th studio record. And so I feel like I've got a lot of records where I do some of this, some other records where I do that, some records where it's Americana, but in that entire catalog, there's only one record like this.
There was a Slash record I interviewed him on once, and he said, it was a record we had a bunch of singers on it, and he said, after his experience with lead singers, he thought it was really nice not to have one lead singer. Yeah. So, I mean, you have, the Zach, of course, Chuck, Chris Cornell, may rest in power. You've worked with these powerful front people. What's it like to switch it up?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, how fortunate is someone to be able to work with Zach De La Rocha, Chris Cornell, Bruce Springsteen, Chuck D, and Be Real. That's a pretty formidable Mount Rushmore of awesome.
Oh, dude, it's as good as it gets.
Yeah. So this record, I mean, there's two ways that music can be good. One, in my view, one is when you have like a band, and a band has chemistry, and you sort of submit to that chemistry, bring in your ideas, and then they come back as things that you couldn't possibly have done yourself. Right. The band chemistry takes each person's ideas and makes it something special. Then when you do solo stuff, you get purity, and it's a purity of vision, and it is absolutely undiluted. This record in some ways is the best of both worlds. The overall arching vision and the idea for the Atlas Underground record is mine, and I'm the curator. I write songs on it, I play guitar on it, but I'm the curator of it. And Marcus Mumford and RZA don't necessarily know what each other are doing on this record, but I know what they're both doing. Right. As the GM of this thing. So, but at the same time, I get the collaborative randomness of, I don't know when I sit down with Wu-Tang or with K-Flay what that song's going to be. Right. It's going to become something that neither of us could have done on our own. So it's very exciting to have both those in one project.
And how often did you have to send something back and say, it's not quite there?
I wouldn't. It's not quite there is not really my Jedi vocabulary.
What's your Jedi vocabulary?
Jedi vocabulary would be like, I love this. I love this. What if we try?
Right.
Yeah.
And was that?
Yeah. That's never been. I mean, I can't think of it was more often the other way around, where I'd say, here's this mix, and then people be like, I'm feeling more of something that perhaps I don't hear, but I'm like, that's the collaborative part. I made it clear I wanted to have there be like no real ego stake in it for myself in starting these songs, so that everybody felt comfortable and to know that the song's done when we all think it's great.
So how often, who in your life is sitting across from you saying, who's your Bob Rock telling Kirk Hammett the solo's not there yet? who's that?
Oh yeah, for me?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty. There's Carl Restivo, who's like he's like sort of my consigliere.
Yeah.
He's
your Tom.
Yeah,
I love
he
it.
does it. He knows what's good and what's less good. And sometimes I'll just send him something and I'll go like, make it right. Make it so I like it.
Well, some guys, when they get to a certain stage of their career, it's harder for them to listen.
Yeah. Well, I've never been. I mean, to me, so I have some clear ideas of vision on stuff, and I know if it's within those parameters, then sometimes the specifics don't really matter that much to me.
In my later years, I've discovered the Grateful Dead. I ignored them my whole life. I just didn't like them. Couldn't buy into it.
I'm still in that.
Yeah, I couldn't do it,
there. Yeah.
and I decided to do it. And I'm like, oh, okay, because there was no band of that era whose catalog I hadn't finished.
Yeah, sure.
So I didn't.
Give it a go. Yeah.
And I'm not ready to do the Eagles yet. So and maybe never will be. So
you might want to try that.
I know it's just not. I don't know.
I want to try that.
You love them. Is that those are your people?
I don't know. I mean, I came to it late, but now if I had to choose Dead or Eagles for me, that's pretty.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I wonder who do you come by later?
Who'd I come by? Well, I started with metal. I mean, for me, it was all metal all the time. It was, and then I
like Venom, Slayer metal.
No. I started like a classic hard rock metal. It was the Kiss and the Aerosmith and the Sabbath and
Maiden, maybe
Maiden, Priest, Dio, AC/DC, all that.
All great
and then,
stuff.
That's music that I loved, but that wasn't music that I could play. I aspired to want to rock like that, but seemed like they were these kind of mythical. Like you couldn't. I didn't have a castle on a Scottish lake, and I didn't have a $10,000 Les Paul. I had a basement in Illinois that belonged to my mom, and that's all I had. And then when I heard the punk bands like the Sex Pistols and the Clash, I was like, these records were made in mom's basements, and it felt like it was much more. The bar was lower to entry, that's what made me play guitar. I never lost the love of the hard rock stuff or of the kind of the 80s gunslinger shreddery thing. I always kept that intact. But it was like I came to Bruce late. I came to folk music late. I came to Doobie Brothers and the Eagles late. Now all of which I can enjoy, which I despised as a young man.
And so so the doors are still open for you. There's still stuff that you can see.
Yeah, the doors are still open.
There's still stuff that you can see. I'm making sure our timing is good. Yeah. Whose style do you listen to now and think, I wish I could play a little bit like that?
Yeah, it's been. I'll be honest with you. It's been a very, very, very long time since I've been inspired by guitarists.
Okay.
I will sometimes listen to, like in this sort of this latest, my EDM crush that I have now. Sometimes I'll listen to like sort of the juxtaposition of sounds and the way things are cut together and think, I want to play that on guitar. I want to make that analog because it just, to me, practicing or being inspired by stuff that's within the bounds of what guitar players already do. I've done a lot of that. And to me, going outside of the bounds of what guitar players do, like it's whether it's traffic going by, helicopters overhead, trip to the petting zoo. To me, those things are more interesting to practice.
You're finding it. I mean, I have synths all around the house because I'm a piano player, and I decided to, same reason, EDM, I got into it later. I got into it early in the early days, but then now I'm into it because a lot of the guitar that I heard was like,
Right.
Where's the anger? Where's the push?
Exactly.
That I'm looking for.
Yeah. And to me, like my favorite music has always felt dangerous, and I tried to make a record now that was really outside the box in that regard, and that would challenge me, challenge the audience, and also, I mean, the one of the overarching goals of this record is to make a record that, in my view, is the Hendrix of now.
Yeah. What does that mean?
And that doesn't mean people sort of guitar magazines think it means it's like psychedelic rock. Blues explosion. It is not that. There's three components. One is that it has to have otherworldly guitar playing, outside the box thinking on guitar. Two is, one of the reasons why Hendrix is revered is not just because he dressed cool and he set his guitar on fire. He had bangers on the radio. He inflicted his guitar genius on the world via Crosstown Traffic and Foxy Lady and Wind Cries Mary. Like those were the beacons that went up in the sky to go like, oh my gosh, listen to the guitar playing that. So in some ways, this record, I hope, will function as a Trojan horse in that regard.
To get on the radio.
Exactly, to have like guitar on the radio. Because young people nowadays, like there's no one's reaching for guitar to want to play 8 hours a day. They're reaching for Ableton to want to DJ tent at Coachella. You know
Indeed,
what I'm saying?
indeed.
You know, that's like the...
And having been to that DJ tent, it's really fun.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong. But you know, like
Yeah.
I think that in some ways why electric guitar music has become marginalized. A lot of time people listen to music now on, you know, it's your phone or your computer, where open hi-hats and electric guitar don't sound great in that context. But to make a record that has like the formidableness of now without budging an inch on like the guitar rockingness.
When you took the stage at Coachella when the Rage thing happened, I saw the video, the over-the-shoulder video. You know, like when you guys took the stage.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't at the show, and I thought, I bet that is fucking overwhelmingly cool for those guys.
Well,
what was that like?
Well, playing those festival shows is nuts to begin with, but that particular, where Rage had been away for 7 or 8 years and playing the hometown show, we headlined the first Coachella. Yeah. So kind of coming home like that was crazy. And I had thought that band was never going to play another show, and here we were. We were actually walking the stage, and you know, the four of us with like one security guy, and there are these, you know, kids backstage, and one of them turns to the other, and I hear him very clearly say, "Holy shit, this is really going to happen!" And I thought to myself, "Holy shit, this is really going to happen!" Like I'm as excited as you are, because it's really going to happen.
And then you take the stage and you see the crush,
and it's like an ocean of gasoline, and you just light the match of the first beat, and the place goes.
So what do you do when you play shows that don't have that feeling? Like, what's that like for you?
Well, I mean, I have the good fortune to be able to play whatever shows I'm playing, whether it's Big Prophets of Rage festivals or whether it's Atlas Underground experience shows we're doing now, or Night Watchman shows, is I play to try to save everybody's soul in the room. And you can, if it's in a room with 100, if it's a coffee house, or whether it's a stadium, you can get that same electricity between artists.
So you have an inner
fans.
peace then to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
And have you always had that?
I am on fire, and for me, it's a mission. It's not a job. It's not don't tell anybody, but I probably would do it for free.
Right.
You know? I mean, don't tell anybody.
You play for free, they pay you to get in the flights.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that drive, especially when you're and a lot of it has to do, you know, I can talk about, I like to express myself with a guitar, or there's an important political mission, but it's really, at the end of the day, it's the connection.
Right.
It's a connection that you make, and whether it's in a stadium, whether it's in a smaller place, like that kind of feeling of being this tribal togetherness and this feeling of being heard and understood and this solidarity in the room. There's nothing like it.
Have you ever felt like you didn't have that? Have you had those moments of anxiety or feeling alone? Have you ever dealt with that in your adult life?
You mean on stage?
No, before, when you're at home at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the reasons why I was so drawn to practicing the guitar 8 hours a day was that there may have been other areas where I didn't have control or connection. And with the guitar, it was solely the only determining factor of whether or not I got better was my will.
Right.
And I have that in abundance. So I'm like, if I can sit down with this, like, this is, you cannot touch this relationship right here. This is just me and
you could feel that outside, either in your head or outside, things weren't working smoothly. And this
I mean, there sort of race and romance and things. We're dicier at sometimes, but there was a reliability that knowing that. I practiced with a obsessive compulsiveness that I knew tomorrow we'll be together for 4 hours here.
Right.
And I know at the end of that day, I'm going to be better.
So you're a practical guy?
I'm a list maker.
Are
full type A list maker.
So what's this like when you don't have, I mean, even though you have a vision, you don't have total control.
You don't have total control, but I get to make wonderful lists of I get to make marvelous lists of like prospective people to work with and sort of like goals for the songs and the underlying, you know, like I love having the conversations with the artists. Like with Vic Mensa, the conversation was, let's make a song that you can stand your ground to. Okay. With K-Flay, it was like, let's talk about privilege and you know, if I had one wish for humanity, it would be that we could all be the person we were meant to be. Mm-hmm. And billions of people are denied that by either economic circumstances or other circumstances. And the doctor who might cure cancer could currently be working in a Vietnamese sweatshop making Nikes.
That's right.
You know, the next Mozart is in an Alabama prison because she had weed in her car when she was 17 years old. You know, so that's, you know, like big. I write down ideas and I write down people and I write down and then records like this occur.
You're sitting in your living room and your kitchen, your other table, you're just jotting stuff down.
Yeah. In my studio, I go to my studio because I have kids, so there's a lot of chaos in the.
How do you compartmentalize? Are you good at that?
Well, I mean, the good news is like I for better or worse, I won't say for better or worse. Definitely for better, I prioritize the family. You know, I spent a lot of years prioritizing my work and my band and my guitar playing, this, that, and the other. And I coach little league teams, and so sometimes it does squeeze the amount of what I call Da Vinci hours, where you can sit there with your notebooks and do it. But so I try to make the most of those.
Some of the best dudes I know in life, when they become coaches of their kids' teams, become Raitt dicks. It's hard for them to be a good coach. What kind of coach are you?
I would say that probably the best skill I have in life is winning with the team that's on the field.
but winning,
anything.
But winning is still the word.
Whether it's Bad News Bears, kids out there, I make sure that the worst kid on the team, gets a home run. I make sure,
right.
It's like I love that kind of.
But what happens when the worst kid on the team strikes out?
What's that?
What happens when the worst kid strikes out all the time?
Then we have a competition to see how many times you can strike out, and you win a prize for it, because that's really kind of awesome in a different way.
That's a good place to be in. It's a good place to be in. When you take the stage in the Atlas Underground, you're going to go. The audience is going to love what you do. They can't wait to watch you shred, and you have all these years of stuff.
Yep.
How do you tour this show?
Yeah. Well, this Atlas Underground experience is a glorified listening party where I tell tall tales of my career. I bring my guitar and I shred my ass off. Right. In 2019, we're going to do the proper tour, and we're figuring it out now. We can't anticipate all 20 of the collaborators to be there at each of the shows, and I want to make a show that if no one's there, you're not going to miss it, because it's going to be so compelling. Right. So Sean Evans, who's the artistic director for Roger Waters' The Wall and the Us and Them tour, and I are working on a sort of a non-traditional rock and roll evening that will be.
Please commend Sean for the Pigman Trump Putin video thing. That is one of the greatest live things I've ever seen. In LA. It was.
He's real good at thinking outside the box too. So we're making our little Da Vinci list
really
now
fun.
and stuff too.
How do you when you think back? You said when Rage took the stage. I was thinking about you the other day when I knew you were coming in. What I wondered was, we all fans think Rage Against the Machine should exist.
Yes.
But then I thought, John Lennon once said, I don't want to be in the Beatles because I don't want to go back to high school.
Yeah.
And I thought, does Tom think Rage should exist the way we think it should exist?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
If a Rage Against the Machine show breaks out, count me in.
That's it, eh?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how do you make?
I know those songs.
But you're a list maker. Have you listed a way to make this happen? I assume you guys talk. I assume you guys have a way.
Yeah. We're all very friendly. But like I said, if a Rage show occurs, I'll definitely be the guitar player.
So you can't be the guy to make it happen.
I have not been successful with that in the past.
But you have tried. I was lucky enough to interview Chris a few times. We spoke a little bit about him when Prophets came by, you and Chuck came by. But time's gone on now. How do you look back on that experience?
On Audioslave?
Yeah.
I mean, with great fondness, and for 6 years or so, we were in a band that I never even dreamed would happen. I got to play with Chris Cornell, one of the greatest rock singers and melody composers of all time.
Sold a lot of records, too.
We sold a lot of records, too, in sort of like the last gasp of the record industry. I remember we made some record, we sold like 3 million copies, and Timmy was pissed. He's like, man, back in the olden days, this would have sold 10 million copies. I'm like, but 2 years from now, it'll sell 0 copies. so you might want to just thank your lucky stars.
Right.
You got in when you did. But, it's just to have that catalog of songs that exist, and have like Chris's entire life's work to listen to. For 52 years, he managed to harness some crazy demons to make some of the greatest rock and roll that ever existed, and I feel blessed to have been a part of some of that.
When you're on stage, you're looking over at the singers you've worked with, and just be like this, Chris is different than Zach, and of course Chuck and Be Real, and just go, wow, these are heroes too.
Yeah, it is incredible. I don't take that for granted. That you eventually learn to work with people as peers. But I was a huge Rage. We all kind of came up together, but I was a huge fan of Soundgarden. Then I got in a band with Chris Cornell. Huge fan of Bruce Springsteen. I got in the East Street Band.
Yeah.
Enormous fan of both Chuck D and Be Real, and I'm in a band with them.
Right.
There's no crystal ball that I could have looked into.
But every now and then, Tim and Brad are just floating around with you, like you're doing it together.
Yeah. Well, we know we recognize that what we do together is very special and unique, and that there's no sort of 3 musicians that play in that particular way together.
So do you feel then like there's a lot more to do musically? New stuff?
Absolutely.
Like singers?
There in this Atlas Underground world, I'm already working on more songs for the next record. So this is definitely, and I love this idea, and I'm going to continue this for at least one more record. We're in the studio making a Prophets of Rage record right now. So I kind of look at the stuff that's like right in front of me, but the next couple of years there's going to be a lot of music and a lot of shows to play.
That's got to be a lot of fun for you. What are you reading? Do you have time to read?
Yeah, no, I have 3 books with me right now. One of them is The History of America in 10 Strikes. It talks about the sort of 10 labor strikes through the years that tell the history of America. And I have something else that I haven't opened. I just put in there. I don't know what it is.
So the
Contagion, I think it's called.
Contagion?
Yeah.
We're in an era where you saw it even like 5-6 years ago, even before, but 5-6 years ago, governors were winning states, vowing to crush unions.
Yes.
Like we were right back to where we were.
Yeah.
And before our time. And then I remember thinking, okay, so now what? So who does what?
Yeah.
How do the people
Well, I mean,
change?
I can tell. I mean, one of the reasons why, at least certainly in the United States, why we are where we are is the result of the dismantling or the weakening of labor unions and the weakening of the workforce, and this kind of flipping over from, for lack of a better, from blue to red of the white working class in the United States, and that's intentional. Like all of that has led to Kavanaugh. That's all part of a plan. There has been an aggressive class war waged against the working class for a long time in the United States, and that's why I've always been such a staunch supporter of labor and of labor unions. But where we are now, I think that it is going to be up to the fertile imaginations of young people to help save the planet, and women especially. I would say women are the spearhead of saving this planet, and please allow yourself to be as pissed off as you should be, given what's going on in the world right now. Harness that and save our asses, because we dudes can't do it.
No, in fact, if you want
crystal clear, ladies, dudes can't do it.
If you want to make a difference, I always say take a look at who the majority of African American women vote for. Generally, that's the candidate to vote for. Mm-hmm. Like generally, they're the ones that made sure Roy Moore didn't win. They're practically the only ones that made sure Roy Moore didn't win, right? And even though it's not their responsibility to save the world, they seem to be ahead of the curve.
Right.
Women of color have been getting fucked over for so long. Follow their lead.
My only hope, or a hope, is that in this Me Too era, where hopefully women are stepping forward and taking the power back in this kind of gun rights era, with the murder, the incessant slaughters of school, so that young people are taking the power and stepping forward, and that's where I place a lot of my hope. Like with me, my job is like I weave my convictions into my vocation, which is an electric guitar player, and to send that beacon out to the world with songs and with shows, and to hopefully provide some inspiration as well as material support for social justice causes. But women and kids, get on it.
Let's look at last question. What's the first riff you ever taught yourself that wasn't your own?
It was, it was the most obvious. It was "Smoke on the Water." That's the one. And then the first song that I learned was "Detroit Rock City."
Pretty good song.
Yeah.
It's good to see you, Mark. Is it true your mother's about to be 95 or is 95?
My mom turned 95 on October 1st.
Is she friends with Bono?
My mom and Bono have been friends for a long time. Yeah.
I mean, come on. Even that's pretty rare.
Yeah, they met when Rage opened for U2 on the Pop Mart tour in '97, and have maintained a wonderful, sweet relationship. And Bono will call my mom, and my mom will tell him for a half hour what she thinks about Syria. And then Bono will text me and be like, "Your mom is on fire about Syria right now." And he drew her a beautiful birthday card. So that's just a very, very sweet friendship.
That's kind of wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I know that he lost his mom young, so I don't. That may be part of it, but yeah, it's really great.
That's
funny.